تلقينا عن التعليم الاستفادة في الدراسات، وعندما نتلقى الدروس عندما تستحق للمستقبليات أيضا. Review Notes of Anthropology الآن على Hancom of Show 2014 مدبلجة بالعربية. Anthropology has classified into 4 subfields: Physical Anthropology, Archaeological Anthropology, Linguistic Anthropology, and Sociocultural Anthropology. For the first time, physical anthropology, it studies about the interaction for natural sciences like biological human variations. Whenever you talk about biological genetics and evolution, you may understand. And the archaeological anthropology, it studies about the history of distant in the past people, such like fossils, which remains dead plants or animals. Archaeological anthropology classified into 3 major parts: artifacts, materials, remains, and used by the past people, tools, ornaments, arrowheads, coins, and fragments of pottery. And features modified by the past people, like house foundations, ancient buildings, fireplaces, stilts, and postals. Ecofacts, they are non-artifactual, such as animal bones. Let's go to the linguistic anthropology. It studies a cultural form of language, such as a human language. Let's check the 4 classifications of linguistic anthropology. Descriptive linguistic, structural pattern of the language. Historical linguistic, it is an emergence of language. Ethno-linguistic, relationship between cultural and language. Sociolinguistic, linguistic variation with the given language. Let's go to the last, sociocultural anthropology. It deals with the human society and the language. Compare and contrast between ethnographic and ethnologic. Ethnography requires fieldwork to collect the data. It is descriptive. It is a group or community specific. And the ethnology uses data collected by a series of researchers, and usually synthetic and comparative or cross-cultural. When the contribution is said that the perspective is also fundamentally empirical, naturalistic, and hagiographic than nomothetic one. Let's go to the next unit 2, which is known as human cultures. According to Edward B. Taylor, culture is complex whole which includes knowledge, beliefs, arts. According to Malinowski, defined as culture is cumulative creature of man. According to Robert Byrstead, culture is complex that consists of every member of society. Culture is a collective heritage learned by individuals and passed from one generation to another. And the culture, which is also important, which can be respected for a cultural unity, for diversity. And it's the most private issue for intellectuals, another. When we go to the characteristics of cultures, a culture is learned. It is not transmitted genetically, rather, it's acquired through the process of learning or interacting with one's environment. Enculturation is specifically defined as the process by which an individual learns the rules and values of one's culture. And the culture is shared. For a thing, idea, or a behavior pattern to qualify as being cultural, it must have a shared meaning by at least 2 people within a society. And the culture is symbolic. Symbolic thought is unique and crucial to humans and to cultural learning. And the culture is all-encompassing. Culture encompasses all aspects which affect people in their everyday lives. Culture comprises countless material and non-material aspects of human lives. Culture is integrated. Cultures are not haphazard collections of customs and beliefs. Instead, culture should be thought of as integrated wholes, the parts of which to some degree are interconnected with another. Culture is adaptive or maladaptive. Humans have both biological and cultural ways of coping with environmental stress. Culture is dynamic. There are no cultures that remain completely static year after year. Culture is changing constantly as new ideas and new techniques are added as time passes, modifying or changing the old ways. Let's go to the elements of cultures as a new topic which is talking about. Material culture consists of man-made objects such as tools, implements, furniture, automobiles, buildings, dams, roads, bridges. Non-material culture consists of the words that are used or the language they speak, the beliefs they hold, values and virtues they cherish, habits they follow, rituals and practices that they do, and the ceremonies they observe. For example, values are the standards by which members of a society define what is good or bad, what is beautiful or ugly. Beliefs are cultural conventions that are concerned with true or false assumptions, specific description of the nature of the universe and humanity's place in it. Norms are shared rules or guidelines that define how people ought to behave under certain circumstances. And another norms, they have two important ways like folkway and mores. Folkway norms guiding ordinary usage and conventions of everyday life are known. And mores are much stronger norms than are folkways. Mores are norms that are believed to be essential to core values which insist on conformity. A person who steals, rapes and kills have violated some society's most important mores. Cultural unity and variations. Universality are cultural traits that span across all cultures, and the generalities are cultural traits that occur in many societies but not all of them. Particularity is a trait of a culture that is not widespread cultural borrowing. Cultural differences. Ethnocentrism refers to the tendency to see the behaviors, beliefs, values, and norms of one's own groups as the only right way of living, to judge others by those standards. Cultural relativism suspends judgment and views about the behavior of people from the perspective of their own culture. Respecting for cultural differences involves appreciating cultural difference, accepting and respecting other cultures, trying to understand every culture and its element in terms of its own context and logic, and the human rights, the rights based on justice and morality beyond its superiority to particular countries, cultures, and religions. When we go to the cultural change, classified into four groups, diffusion is the source of new cultural elements in a society may also be another society. Acculturation is the cultures of either or both groups may be changed by this contact. Invention is the process by which humans innovate creatively, finding solutions to problems is the third mechanism of cultural change. And the globalization encompasses a series of processes including diffusion and acculturation working to promote change in a world in which nations and people are increasingly interlinked and mutually dependent.